Today we're making pork spare ribs the way we do it at the original Black's BBQ. I'm Barrett Black, the 4th generation pitmaster here at the original Black's BBQ, and I'm going to show you the tips and tricks for pork spare ribs just like my grandfather taught me right here in this very room next to the smoker that he built himself. I love pork spare ribs. They're my favorite type of pork rib. There's 3 different cuts, but this is my absolute favorite because of flavor, and that's what we're after. And we're gonna do everything we can to get as much flavor out of these ribs, you know, from the type of ribs that we choose to the seasoning, to the smoking, all the way to how we slice it as well. He has much flavor. The reason spare ribs are so great is all of this marbling, all of that intramuscular fat throughout all these muscles. You know, you can see all that beautiful webbing mixed in there. Then as we smoke it, it's gonna turn to a nice red and mahogany color with those golden strips of fat all the way throughout there. And so some things that my grandfather taught me, you know, he grew up during Great Depression. And so it's all about, you know, waste nothing. And we still believe in that today. And it's a best practice. And so we have to trim different parts of this rib, because if you don't trim certain parts and pieces, it's gonna burn up, it's gonna be wasted, and it's not gonna cook evenly. So let's get to trimming and make sure this thing cooks perfectly evenly. So I like to lay it down flat like this and just spread it out. This is a packer cut. The grocery store, some of this trimming might already be done for you, so you just have to keep an eye on that. But I like to start over here and just round this up. Like, feel for where this bone is. So there's a really tiny bone. You can see it's only about inch and a half long or so. And so we're gonna use that as kind of our guide. And I think we can leave that one right there. There's a little bit of artistry, a little bit of a feel to it. And so I like to kind of spread that out. And then what I'm trying to do is make that a nice rounded corner, because this is really thin and any sharp corners are just gonna burn up. So I've just got a nice sharp knife. I'm gonna try to round that off. And so this is a beautiful piece of pork that's not gonna go to waste. We use this for our sausage. Part of the recipe of the sausage we make here at the restaurant involves pork trimmings. It's mostly beef trimmings from our brisket, but pork trimmings have a lot of use in the kitchen, especially here at Black's BBQ. The other thing that I'm looking for here is any major fat pockets. I don't want to get rid of all the fat, because fat is flavor. Pork fat is a beautiful thing. I'm just looking for these little loose pieces, things that are just kind of hanging off that are going to burn up and not be a great eating experience for anybody. So I've got kind of my top rounded off. The other thing about the bottom is it has this flap right here as part of it. This is a beautiful piece of meat as well. You can do a lot with, but it's really thin. So we're gonna trim that off. And so I like to just lift it up, kind of get a feel for it, figure out a plan of where I'm going in my head. I'm just gonna lift that up right there, and I'm gonna trim and just slice straight across. Try not to cut into this part of the rib, and just go straight across and just trim that off. We're just slicing that off right there. All right, so this is another great piece of meat. It's not something necessarily you throw on the grill, because it's gonna be really tough, has a lot of connective tissue, but if you grind that up, make it into a sausage, put it in some soup, some stews, something that's a nice low and slow cook. And then when you buy pork spare rib that's more of a packer cut, it has this sternum bone right here. And so there's a lot of great meat on here, but it just gets kind of tough, and it makes it really difficult to slice the ribs as well. I like to just get in there and just kind of feel with my hands, bend it around a little bit, get a feel for it, and just line it up. Got a nice sharp knife. I just kind of cut through the meat a little bit first, just slowly start going through there, and then once you kind of get to the bones, just kind of slice nice and easy. Some people, they think they gotta chop and hack at it, but the way those bones are connected, they're really, really soft, and you can go through there really easy. This is something, of course, is not gonna get thrown away. You can use this as a nibbler. You can throw this on the smoker right next to everything else, and this will finish before everything else and kind of nibble the meat off. That's really great. Or what we do here at the restaurant, we just trim that off, and we'll use as much of that meat as possible for sausage as well. Now we're to the controversial part, the membrane. A lot of opinions out there about this really thin piece of, you know, tissue on the rib. A lot of people like to peel it off. Some people hate it. I personally appreciate it. I love it. I think it's not only makes a better rib, but when done right, it's actually a little bit crispy, a little different texture. And so I'm gonna leave this alone. A lot of people spend a lot of time and a lot of risk trying to peel that off, but all this white stuff up underneath here, that is flavor. And so if you peel that off, all that wonderful fat that would be just cooking the meat inside, almost frying itself in its own pork fat, not frying in that sense, but just a slow kind of braise in its own fat, rendering out, fusing itself into the meat, would just go to waste. And so in my opinion, trimming off that membrane you're just losing so much flavor, so much natural flavor of the meat that we worked so hard to build. So we're gonna leave that membrane alone. Some people score it, those kind of things, but still just leave it alone. The silver skin, those kinds of things, the way that we're gonna cook this, in my opinion, it's just not worth it to mess around with it, to lose some of the meat, because cooking this for 3 or 4 hours, low temperature, you're breaking down all the connective tissue inside the meat. You're gonna break down all that silver skin and everything too, that you're just gonna bite through it, you're not even gonna notice it. So that is the basics of trimming your pork spare ribs. We got nice round corners and we are ready for seasoning. We're Central Texas barbecue. It's simple, it's salt and pepper, and that's what we love. We got a little bit of red pepper in there, but basically, when you're seasoning pork ribs, any type of barbecue, you want something that's gonna stand up to the heat, not burn, not get bitter. And we use table salt in our rub. It's a really small crystal. Kosher salt is very popular, but we like table salt because you don't need a lot of it. It dissolves quickly onto the meat. It sticks. So there's no need for any mustard binder or use of sauce or anything like that. It sticks, it dissolves quickly into the meat, seasoning deeply into the meat, so you get a nice, deep flavor throughout the whole meat. If you're wanting to season, experiment with other flavors, with herbs and spices, do something non-traditional, I still highly recommend you start with a salt and pepper base, then maybe in the last 30 minutes or even just during the rest after it comes off the smoker, add those extra flavors so you can experience those different things, because that rendered fat, the heat of the ribs is gonna really bloom those herbs and those spices, and you're gonna get the flavor you're looking for. But putting anything else but salt and pepper on here this early, you're just gonna be wasting money and get a lot of bitter flavors. So to me, is a beautiful rack of pork ribs. It's got just the right amount of salt, just a nice thin coating, a little bit of pepper for a little bit of spice. Classic Central Texas barbecue spare rib that's ready, for you to put your own spin on. So we're gonna go ahead and get this on the smoker. All right, real quick, guys, something I forgot to mention. If you have the time, season your ribs, let them rest for at least 30 minutes to an hour, up to 24 hours if you want every ounce of potential out of those ribs. It allows that salt to dissolve, penetrate the meat, season it, tenderize it, and just be the best possible ribs you can. Not required, but an extra little tip I forgot to mention. All right, see y'all. We like to cook at 275 degrees. That's what we cook everything here. When it's your smoker, you got to do, how your smoker. Every smoker's different, the weather's different, humidity's different, but we like to cook it at 275, and this will cook for about 3 to 4 hours. And we'll cook this fattier part facing towards the meat, so that way it can absorb a lot more of that heat and not dry up or burn up any of these parts. But we're not cooking for a specific amount of time. We're gonna cook to tenderness. So we're gonna go ahead and put these on, put them to bed, and we'll be back to talk about how to check for doneness. All right, so now we're gonna start checking for doneness. We've got some other ribs that we've been cooking for the last 3 or 4 hours, and every rib's gonna act a little bit differently. They're not all gonna be done at the same time, depending on their size. The way that we check for doneness, what my grandfather taught me, is we're not checking for temperature really. Temperature does matter, but we're checking for tenderness, because that's what people want. They want it flavorful and they want it tender. And so I'm using this probe thermometer. It doesn't matter, I just need the probe part of it, and I'm feeling for the friction. I'm feeling, holding it super light, and then does it go in and out like butter. There's zero friction on this one. There's zero rubberiness. If there was another rack in here that was not as far along, you'd feel it kind of rubbing on there, just the friction. It's very noticeable. Once you feel that first smooth in and out, just like butter, you'll know. The temperature that needs to get to is about 200 degrees, 205 to really break down that connective tissue, but there's a big range in there, so really just want to do that probe test to make sure it's tender, because that's what matters. Go ahead and take this particular rack out, leave it there to rest, to let those juices redistribute, and we'll be back to talk about how my grandfather taught me to slice pork spare ribs. We are almost there to the thing that we've all been waiting for, which is eating these ribs. And so we've let them rest, and it's time to slice them. And there's a technique that my grandfather taught me that would still teach all of our cutters today. I'm using a knife that pretty much everybody has at home. We use a slightly longer knife that's more efficient for the cutting block. But what I like is just a nice kind of curved, rounded, pointy tip. So this is a 7-inch chef knife, the most common knife out there. But what you're looking for is trying to get right between those bones. So I have the bones that are poking out, pointing away from me. And what you do is you want, the handle up like this, get them right in between the bones, and then just little strokes up, just straight up and down, so you can feel the bone and go along with the curvature of the bone. They're not perfectly straight, They do have a little bit of a bend to them, a little bit of a curve. That's just natural. And so then you just, by having that handle up like that, you can easily navigate all around those ribs. Because if you just went hacking away, probably could get through the bones because they're relatively soft. But to get a nice clean cut, preserve all that nice meat, and have beautiful ribs like this big guy right here. So look at that beautiful smoke ring that penetrated all the way through there. The salt is seasoned all the way through it. We've got that membrane intact, and we cooked it to where it's nice and crispy, but it also held on to all that fat underneath it. And then my favorite part of the spare rib is this part up here. Some people call it the knuckle. It's a little bendy. It's got all that beautiful fat and marbling. You've got the red mahogany meat, the strips of golden fat running through it. My mouth is absolutely watering. I think it's time for a bite. I'm going for right here. Right there is my favorite bite. Man, you can wait. The salt is just perfect. It blends with the pork. You got that membrane right there holding on. You can really see it right there. When it's done right, it's just nice and crispy. You get a perfect bite, and it's like not even there. It's just there holding all that beautiful flavor for you. It's like your best friend wanting to just deliver the best bite you possibly can to you. So leave the membrane on. I'm gonna go enjoy this pork rib. Thank y'all very much for learning how we do things here at the Original Black's Barbecue. So much thanks to my grandfather and all that he taught me and taught us, and the legend and the recipes we get to carry on. So please like and subscribe, and we'll be back with some more recipes about how we do things here at the Original Black's Barbecue.